Good evening and welcome to episode 85 of Codebase Alpha. I'm not sure how long I'm going to go on for today. I've got a bit of a cough that started to develop, and obviously with the current situation, I'm not sure what it what it actually is. So we'll see how far I get anyway. Okay, so as you know, we've been working on our portfolio website, written in GatsbyJS and using Fomantic UI for the styling as a styling library. It's a bit like Bootstrap, but it's a bit different, and it's got this kind of semantic feel to it. So you use words which kind of describe what the styling is. For example, if you want to have a grid of cards, you use grid cards as the styling classes. So it's quite interesting, and I've been really enjoying using it and been actually kind of discovering uses and stylings just by using the semantic components. Today I think we're going to do some bit of styling on the blog post page, which we auto-generated last time. That caused us a little bit of a problem, but we managed to get around that in the end. Last time I also created forms, a Netlify form, and I had difficulty actually posting the information back. The Netlify picked up the existence of the form in the Gatsby site, but actually didn't respond when we posted to it. But I managed to figure that one out, and I actually wrote a blog post on that and put that on the site. So I'll quickly just mention what that was. Let's pop over into the code over here. Let's have a bit of music to just lighten the mood a bit. Mask my coughing. This is Relax Daily, and these are the free to stream tracks from Michael Fessa, who's one of my favourite kind of coding music to code by kind of things. Apart from music to code by Carl Franklin, of course, but this is also music to code by lowercase, really. So I really enjoy it. Just my headphones set. Okay. One thing I wanted to mention just before we do get underway is that I actually published a NuGet package up to NuGet yesterday. So let's get a quick look at that. So if you type in NuGet SNB, then you should see the three packages I've got up on GitHub. The most popular is by far the Alexa library, the helper library for Alexa skills, which came out of a stream approximately this time last year. The Slack lib, which I've got, which is a .NET Standard 2.0 class library, which I use for my bot to integrate with Slack, and also the new one, which went up yesterday. And it's amazing. I've only just noticed we got 17 downloads in a day, so that's pretty good for a very niche kind of package. So that's SNB.Z80. That's the Z80 emulator, which came out of the Project Z streams that I kind of completed a few weeks ago now. So that's actually up and available to download. I will be writing some blog posts about it. There's also lots and lots of sample code up on the repo, so do check that out. Okay, let's have a look at our site and what we've got so far, shall we? So let's start it up. So here we are in the right foot. As for such, thank you very much for the subscription. Thank you so much. Have some hype for that. So much, very very good to have you on board. 11-month streak as well. My word, that's amazing. So thank you so much for that. I think we'll have a bit of electric elf as well. There we go. Going at the same time there. So that's wonderful. Okay, so yeah, let's start up our Gatsby site, the Gatsby develop. And I still haven't figured out about the hot reload. I must sort that out at some point. So we'll be having to press refresh on our browser, which we shouldn't have to do. So Gatsby develop should start our site up in development mode. Come on, you're going to start up. There we go. This will start a little development server, and we'll be able to connect that server, and it'll serve pages on port 8000. So it's just building the bundles, and here we are. Localhost port 8000 is where we need to go see the site. So let's go and have a look at that. And we're oops, it's not a secure site in terms of HTTPS, and our local server, when we publish to Netlify, it's a TLS site. Okay, so here's our home page. This is our GitHub page. It's still very grey. I will, when I work on what this text up here is going to be and put an image up there, I'll add some kind of accent colour to it, but at the moment I'm leaving everything quite grey. On our blog post page, you can see we've got 2 posts so far, and if we go and look at the post that I did about Gatsby and Netlify forms, you can see here we got it's here, and it just needs a bit of styling, just a bit. There's not an awful lot. The actual text area is fine. We want to put the date. We want to put some tags under there, and an author kind of avatar and things like that down the bottom there. So we're going to do that, I think. And then I want to implement some search engine optimization, because that might be relatively interesting to do. And we may or may not add comments to the blog. I'm a bit kind of up in the air about which system to use. I was thinking we could use Discuss, but then I know that they've had data breaches in the past, so I'm a bit kind of, we may not get round to doing that. So with this cough that's starting, I'm not sure how long my voice will hold out anyway. In terms of getting the Netlify forms to actually work, if I go over to Netlify now, on the recent form submissions, you can see that I did submit a test form on the 9th of March, which is when we last broadcast. So I got it sorted out pretty much at the end of that stream. And the solution, if we go back to our blog post, the solution is here. It was to add this line, this hidden input field, with form name, and then the value of this input type would be the name of my form. Now originally we had the name of the form in the form tag, and that meant that when Netlify, when their build bot saw this code, it did pick up the fact that I had a form called contact on there. But what happened when I posted back, it didn't recognize the form that the post back came from. In order to make it do that, you just need to add that extra hidden field there. And one thing we need to do to this is add a reCAPTCHA to it. So we'll look at that as well, I think. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so let's drop into the code and see what we can do first. We Gatsby.config. Let's do the reCAPTCHA first, and I believe all we need to do now I'm going to go and look this up, because I think it's something like data Netlify reCAPTCHA is true, but let's go and check. So actually the Netlify site is good for this. Let's go and have a look at Netlify, and we'll go and look at not their documentation. So where's their documentation? The active forms, usage, the docs, there we go. And we want to put reCAPTCHA in it, don't we? So reCAPTCHA to integration, data Netlify reCAPTCHA equals true is what we need to put on there. So let's do that, as that's a relatively simple thing for us to do. Now we're not going to be able to see the reCAPTCHA immediately. We have to publish to Netlify to do that, but that won't take long. So data Netlify recapture. Okay, let's push that up to Netlify. So we'll do a git add, git commit, added recapture to contact form. Now we'll do a git push, and we'll check that in a bit. So we haven't got to go and look at it. It'll take a few minutes to build up on Netlify. We'll see what it looks like when that's complete. In the meantime, we'll just bring up Gatsby Develop again. Work on something else while that builds. Now I think what we should do is to do a bit of styling of the blog posting. So it's posting.js. Remember, it's a template. So the way this is going to work is that from our function here, our functional component, we're returning this piece of JSX, and we've got our React components, layers, and container. Then we're outputting a H1 element here. It's decorated with the class name of UI and header from Fomantic, and we putting in the title of the post, and then we've got this dangerously set in HTML, and that's basically in this div that is putting in the text of our posting, and the posting is generated from markdown files by the work we did last time. So I think what we're going to need to have on here is a div where we're going to put the date of the posting. So let's do that. So this is going to be our class name, and we have UI, and I think we can have date. I think we can say date, and then we can put in here. Let's go and have a look at our blog post here. Yes, this meta tag here is because we're in a card at the moment, so I think we should be okay just to put in the date. Let's see what happens when we do that. So in our posting, we can put curly brackets, put in posting upfront matter, and this is coming from GraphQL, remember, and the date. Format that. What's it complaining about? Oh, missed that start. Okay, there we go. And then we'll have. I think we need a horizontal rule, but I think we can put a div in here, and we'll give it a go. Class name UI. I think it's divider. So we'll see what that looks like. Save that. Now we're going to need to regenerate our page, so we need to stop our server and restart it, so it rebuilds the HTML pages at build time. And also this gives us a chance to keep an eye on any errors from that build. That's built okay. Let's go and have a look at what that code looks like on the page. There's localhost. We go to our blogs, refresh, and now we've got the date here. That's not in a great format, and we've got a horizontal rule, which is what I wanted. So this date looks a bit naff. Okay, so what's the best way of dealing with that? let's go and look at the code that we did for our blog posts here. And we actually formatted the date with a format string in this piece of code here. So let's grab that format string, and then I think if we that'll be in the Gatsby node, I think, and Gatsby node file. So what are we doing here? We're putting in the permalink there, so that's not it. Template is here. Oh, here we are. So we need to pop the date formatter in there. And I think what we'll do is make this a H3. See if that makes it better. Okay, so unfortunately, because we were working with a template and generated code, we need to restart our server. So you don't normally have to do this, but it's a template. So what's happening in the background, Gatsby is actually building that HTML from our Markdown files dynamically at build time. So it's still a static website, but we do have this kind of dynamic page generation at build time. Let's go and have a look at that. I've got to refresh, unfortunately. So 10th of March 2020, that seems reasonable. So it's a bit kind of better. I think it's a bit close. This title's a bit close there. So we'll put a break there. And then we're going to want to have another horizontal rule, another divider at the bottom here. And then maybe some tags and an author avatar at the bottom there. Okay, and we want to. I'd like a graphic in there somewhere. A picture. We may not do that. Let's see how we get on. Okay. So here we got our in HTML. Let's put another divider in. A divider can go in immediately afterwards, like that. We'll have a break there. We can adjust the formatting of this HTML, this JSX a little bit. Okay, so we've got a divider, and then we're going to want to have another div, class name, and we've got class name in this kind of camel case form instead of just class, because we are dealing here with React components. And this is going to be, now we can actually go and borrow this code from our blog post, and here it is. So right floated author, so we can actually grab the whole of that code, can't we? Let's just grab the whole of that piece of code actually and just copy it across. That's going to go in there. Like that. Oops. Okay. Let me just sort out. We don't want this extra content div here. We just want after that divider. And let's tidy up. And we're going to need to import our image. Interesting. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted just to bring that. What's this div here associated with? Is that really there? Must have been. Okay. Oh, I see. It's wrapping that div there. Okay. So what we need now is our graphic, and that's, we can go and grab that out of blog post. That's just a picture of me and that's living in our static directory. So let's pop that import in there. That should qualify that one. Okay, let's give that a go. Once again, because it's a template, we need to restart. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Good to see you on this quite worrying evening of developments with the current coronavirus pandemic in the UK. Okay, that's built. Dan, thank you very much for the follow. It's very kind of you. So have some hype and have a salute from Alf. Okay. So what does that actually look like? Take a look. Oops, we've got a. Okay, I thought there was a problem with that. That div there. That's the close of that div there, isn't it? So we need to just get rid of that and pop that up there, and then we can sort the layout of that out. That looks a bit better. So once again, unfortunately, we're going to need to. Oh, it's rebuilt, but it's no good because it won't build our pages because they're dynamic. Statically dynamic or dynamically static. Okay, that'll take a few seconds to rebuild, generating our HTML. Let's have a look at that. So we're still floating left, and I asked for it to float right. That's interesting. So I think the date could possibly go down the bottom there, but I want it floating right. So what's it complaining about? Right floated author. Pardon me. Let's get rid of the author. I think the author might be to do with cards. So this is where we have to learn. We have to learn about how this semantic or Fomantic UI actually operates. It has a lot of semantic elements which are connected with what the parent element is, and that author, I believe, is to do with cards. So let's see if right floated on the whole of the div sorts that out. So unfortunately, we're going to have to do our stopping start. So we'll soon get past this bit once we're no longer styling this page. We won't have to keep doing this because it's a real pain. Because you get used to the hot reload features. Right, is that going to now push that across? It isn't. Let's have a look at what we've actually got. We've got some errors. Interesting. Let's refill that. Okay, so those errors have gone away, which is lucky. It's just the hot reloader, which is, yeah, I don't understand this. React DOM missing, not detecting a patch. He wants a polyfill. Webpack hot middleware's client requires event source to work. Should include polyfill if you want to support this browser. Event source polyfill. Let's make a note of that. I'm working in Edge here. I guess we could try it in Chromium Edge. Let's have a look at Chromium Edge. So it says this patch is not detected. React DOM patch is not detected. React same features may not work, so that's interesting. And it's still not floating across. Let's have a glance at this element here. So right floated. So I might need UI, I guess. So let's try. Adding UI to that. It's still not floated across to the right. It hasn't taken it. So we might as well work in this. So try UI right floated. I'm not quite sure why that wouldn't work. Let's quickly check Fomantic here. The problem we got now is there's nothing really to help me search for features in here, which is a slight issue. Let's go for label, floating label. So those are just labels which float like that. Floating left, not exactly what we want. Floating as opposed to floated. So if you look at these, here, if we look at the code here, you can see it's actually floating, and that is moving this kind of little badge around. We're using the floated class name. So what can we see here? Attach things. There comes a point where I don't really want to delay the stream by trying to figure this out on stream. Post transition. Shall I make this a bit bigger? Because I'm sure you can't see it. Okay, it's a bit bigger for you. Okay. Here's the avatar. UI avatar image. Of course, it's across to this side. There's alignment. Oh, here's a floated image. Now I'd like this feature actually. Let's have a look at this. So this created a segment, a div, and it's put a UI small floated image there. Okay, well let's try something along these lines, just to jazz up the page a little bit boring. How are we going to do that exactly? I think what we need to do is to wrap this div here in another div. Let's pop that div in there. So that's going to be the div that contains the HTML. I'm not sure how this is going to work exactly, but we'll have a look. So then we're going to pop in an image. like that. So this is going to have a class name. This UI segment. And then what we need to put is a UI small left floated image, and that's going to be the source of that, and we're going to want an alt. The source of that is going to be https://source.unsplash.com/250 by 250 just question mark, and then what we want to do here is our tag, which is going to be posting front matter tags. How did I do that before? Oh, it's in single quotes. Okay. Right. Oops. Where are we? Posting. Here we are. There we go. And within the alt, we simply put in whatever the keyword in there is. Once again, we're going to need to regenerate this. That's failed to build. Why did that fail to build? Syntax error in the code, so it's complaining about this div here. Have a look. Yeah. Because I haven't closed this image tag off, have I? Should sort that out. Let's rebuild that. So everyone bearing up with the current crisis then. We don't want to talk about it. I hope you're all able to kind of work from home or keep away from kind of public transport. It's a great boon if you can do that. Luckily I'm able to do that. But I know there's a lot of people who can't, so I do feel sorry for them. Okay, let's have a look. So there's our image with its alt. But it's not being generated at build time, is it? Okay, so I've got class rather than class name, which will explain that. So that's just this bit here, name there. So let's do it all again. So once we get past this kind of the generated pages, we won't have to do this again. Look what that's done. There we go. So we got a picture there. Could do with being much bigger, couldn't it? But anonymous at that point. When we put it in a segment, we've got a kind of a box around it, which is quite nice. We probably don't necessarily need these dividers. Would like to float that correctly there. Okay, let's go and have a look at that. So we can probably lose the dividers now. And let this be our image is left floated. So let's try that, and we'll just have a bare div lives in, and we'll make this a bit bigger. So let's make it 350 by 350. This is coming from Unsplash, and so this is their very simple API. Not the full JavaScript API, it's their source API. So it gives us a simple way of getting basically a random image into our HTML. We'll restart the server. Okay. Up it comes, come on. Well, it's styled a bit, isn't it? It's something slightly different. And that, now my image is floated across nicely now, look. So it's just the text that needs to go with it. So what have we got here? So what I probably need to do is just to wrap that text in the image tag. Like that. And unfortunately we're going to do this again. This is what comes of not having a clear idea how you're going to style a page before you start. But I'm just trying to get some styling on there, not necessarily the kind of the final styling. Oops. Image is a void element tag must have children or use dangerously set. Okay. So I can't wrap it. Okay. Well, actually, I'm not a front-end expert, so that's interesting that you can't do that. This is where I really could do with having the whole thing floated across. I wonder why. I wonder why that doesn't work. Look, I float the whole div across. No, it doesn't like it. A bit of a pain, that is, isn't it? Well, for now, what I'll do, just miss the text out. What else can we do while we're at it? Again, that feels like it needs to be bigger, doesn't it, that image? So let's try 500 by 500 or 550 by 550. Maybe, pardon me, that might be too big. Right, after this, I think we'll turn our mind to some search engine optimization. We can come back and look at styling. Fine. Not getting any big. I think it's probably as big as they come. Okay, well that's okay. I don't mind that. Could we float it right? And we need to put some spacing in there, don't we, at the bottom, because my photo is being cut off at the bottom. Let's sort that out. So we want to then have a break there to give us a bit of spacing. Let's try right floating that image and see how that looks. Then we think the only thing I want to do then is just put an icon in, the quotation mark icon, and then I think we'll call it a day with that formatting, that styling. No, I don't like it over there. I don't like it at all. Now we're okay with a image. Okay. Maybe that should go at the top as well. Yep, it'll be okay there. Let's just so on our blog page, our blog here, we got this double quotes graphic, and I quite like that. Interesting how this works okay, isn't it? Okay. So on the blog post, then the quotation was this icon here. Let's grab that, pop it into our postings, so it would be that. This definitely needs to be left floated. Wonder how I'll get that text in there. We're not going to worry about it so much now. We'll think about that later. Like that, so that kind of follows the theme through. If we go back to the blogs, then you got the same kind of theme coming through. Would like to have that across there though. That would be nice. Looks a bit weird sitting over there. I wonder if that should be a card. We could try that, couldn't we? Try that. Let's just have one more go. So on that blog post, then we're inside a card content. Let's give it a go. So what we're saying here is this has a class name of UI horizontal card. And then we'd wrap this in a div. content. We've got extra content, can't we? We'll say content for now. Like that. And what did they call it over there? I think it was called, let me just grab that extra content. There we go. Grab the whole of that and try that in there. That's content, and then pop the extra content div in there. Try to do that. My OCD. Let's have a look what that looks like, and we'll see if that's any better. I have a feeling it might be a little card at the bottom there and not look any good. Like a card over there. But it has taken the label with it, you see, that's the interesting thing. Didn't really want to faff around like this, but if that's not a segment, this isn't a card. What does that do? This is why I don't do front end. I guess if you're really into this, you like to spend all your time fiddling around with styling like this, but I find it a bit frustrating that it doesn't seem to do what you want. Which is why I really use Fomantic. It does tend to get things right, and you can pretty much guess the styling class names that you want. Doesn't always do exactly what I kind of hope it will do. No, it's over there again. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to move that content up to the top there, and then stop. So we need to get rid of that one there. Let's see what that looks like. We'll put make sure there's a space at least there. Leave that. Here we go. Let's have a look. I think we'll leave it at that. That's better than it was, at least. It's got the date in there, it's got my graphic in there, so it's looking a bit more reasonable than it was. Let's move on. Okay, so search engine optimization. What can we do in terms of providing like meta tags? to enable kind of search engines to find our content and process it really, and give us some discoverability. Well, what we can do is start off with our Gatsby config. So Gatsby config files over here. This is where we kind of declare all of our plugins, and we're going to do that. But you can see we've got some site metadata here. We started to fill in some site metadata. So what I thought we could do was to expand on this and give some more kind of tags that we can use in the metadata for the search engine optimization. So we can just kind of create our own. So we say site name. That's going to be base alpha dev. We're going to have we can have a title template. We can say that's going to be something like, I don't know, CentS, which is a string portfolio website. What else can we have? Description. I can say something along the lines of portfolio website for me. Owner of the code base of live coding channel on Twitch. Okay. What else can we have? We'll have the site URL. That is https codebase alpha. Should we, just before, while I still remember, let's go and have a look at the site as it exists on Netlify. So https dev, and let's see if go to the contact form. I can't see the recapture. So let's go and check that out. I'm just going to take my Netlify page off screen just in case it reveals any information I don't want you to see. Forms. I'm just looking to see if we've got anything in terms of configuring recapture. I can't see anything. Settings and usage. Maybe I need to be at a higher usage level. I'm on the free level at the moment, so we'll leave that for now. Okay, so we're working on this metadata. What else can we have? Well, we're going to want a picture. Avatar. Okay, so this is going to be. So we want the Codebase Alpha logo really here, and I think that's what avatar code here in static, so that's that there. That's in avatar code. Okay. Not sure exactly what the that should be. Let's try it like that, and then I don't know, Twitter username. We can define as much or as little as we want. And here I'm kind of erring on the size of having more metadata just to demonstrate it really. So site language, English, oops. I don't know, author. Okay, so that gives us a whole bunch of metadata we can play with. So we can use GraphQL to query that metadata, which is what we're going to do. So in order to use search engine optimization, we're going to need some plugins. And there's two main plugins we need. This is the React Helmet plugin and the Gatsby plugin React Helmet. This enables us to insert these metadata tags on every page. Let's go and grab those. So over here in our directory, we'll get those plugins. We can use npm to get those. npm install. Save. And it's going to be Gatsby plugin React Helmet and React Helmet itself. Get the Gatsby plugin, and so the Gatsby plugin is going to enable us to use GraphQL to actually query things as well. Spell things correctly. Helmet and helmet. Okay, that looks okay. Install those. So we also want to kind of be able to build a sitemap automatically, and luckily there's a plugin to build sitemaps, which is really good. So I've made a note here which plugins I want to use. So let's bring in another plugin, which is going to be Gatsby plugin Advanced Sitemap. Let's bring that in. And there's also a Netlify plugin we can bring in, which will build a header file for us, which is just a bit of optimization. It also enables us to define in our code, in our code, we can define a redirects file if we want to. So if we want to start redirecting people around, say for example, if we have a kind of a popular article, but it changed its name because it's version 2 of the article or something, we can point people around at the right place. So let's bring that one, but that's going to be Gatsby plugin Netlify. And we are hosted on the Netlify platform, so it's probably a good idea to have that in as well. So what we're going to need to do now is go into our Gatsby config JS file and just make it aware that we've got these plugins installed. Okay, so what we need to do is go and have a look at the plugin library over on Gatsby and see how to actually do. So here's Gatsby plugin Netlify, and we simply need to put it in the plugins array, so we can do that first. Here's the plugins array, so we can say Gatsby plugin Netlify. and then we also put in the helmet. Gatsby plugin React helmet, and so it's simply Gatsby in React helmet, and simply in the array, so that's okay. Gatsby in React helmet. And the other thing we did was advanced sitemap, wasn't it? I think it's going to be the same, but let's make sure. So it gives us a nice sitemap, and so yeah, it's the same. We need the site URL, which we've already given it. Gatsby plugin advanced sitemap. Okay, save those. Let's start our server and let's make sure there's no errors bringing those plugins into the system. I misspelt Netlify, that's the problem there. Netlify. And if you're a regular viewer of Codebase Alpha, you know misspellings is my game. There we go, looks like it's found all those plugins now. Because it's slowing it down slightly as we load more and more plugins, but the actual code is going to be generated as a static website, so it's not going to slow anything down in that respect. It's the big advantage of having these static sites, they're blazingly fast. Okay, so we've got all that there now. So let's go and have a look. Over here, HTTP. What? No. We couldn't find sitemap.html. Interesting. What does it say about advanced sitemap? Will generate a single sitemap of all pages of the site without any configuration needed. We've got a site URL there, HTTPS. Okay, so the problem here is that we've given it a sitemap of HTTPS Codebase Alpha, and I'm looking on HTTP. So it's likely that this sitemap will only be visible when we go to Netlify, which is fine. We'll look at that later. Let's kind of try and concentrate on getting some search engine optimization into this. So what we're going to need is to create a new React component. Let's create a new React component. We'll call it SEO.js. Okay, so what's that going to look like? Well, we need to kind of start up as we always do. We're going to import React from React. And we're going to then have a constant. This is going to be our functional component, and that's going to be a constant. It's going to equal, and we're going to pass a number of parameters into it. So here's our basic template for the functional component. And then we're going to export default. Go. Okay. So this has got a little red squiggly there because this has got to return something. So let's figure out exactly what we're going to do here. Right. Let's go and have a look at some other code that we've done, because what we're going to want to do is do a static query against GraphQL. So we want to use we want this line here. This is going to use the useStaticQuery React hook to do this. So let's bring that in. Okay. What else do we need? We need helmet. So import a cat meowing in the background from React. Helmet. Okay, so that should bring most of the components we need in. So what we're going to pass in. So let's have the destructor here. So deconstructor. We're going to pass in the title. We're going to pass in our description. We're going to pass in an image. And we're going to pass in what else do we pass in? We'll call it path name, and then we'll call it this article. I'm kind of thinking out loud here, so we'll probably come back and change this. So we're going to pass something in which is going to get deconstructed into those values. Okay. So let's go and have a look at how we dealt with static queries before. Looks like we can define static queries like that. So what we'll do is we'll grab that query, pop that into there, and then we're going to want to return something, aren't we? So we're going to do a return. We'll just return nothing at the moment. Really? Let's go over to GraphQL and see if we can grab the bits and pieces we want from GraphQL. Okay, so that's going to be living over here. If we go to our localhost 8000 __ GraphQL, GraphQL playground, or Graphical as they call it in this particular implementation. Yeah, I think we're going to have to do this in Chromium Edge. I think I remember it not working in ordinary Edge. Okay, so this is what we were playing around with before. So let's have a look what we've got here. Like metadata, here we go. So we're going to want to have all these bits and pieces. So that's all the values that we want. So query is going to be site query, site data. If we run that, we should get all the things we want. So the author, the avatar, description, language, URL for the site, site name, the title, and the title template, and the Twitter username. We can add to that. So let's just grab this whole bunch of code here, and we can paste that now into our query. Query goes in that position there. And it's complaining. Get rid of some of these. So it's wanting curly brackets here, isn't it? So let's give it some curly brackets. That's what it's complaining about. We've got round brackets. Yeah, it's happy now. Okay. So what does that bring back? It brings back site, doesn't it? So that's the top level site. Now we can deconstruct that then into bits and pieces we've got here. So site metadata. The best way of doing this. It's going to be site, then site metadata. And then we can break that down again, and that's going to break down into. So what we're going to do, we're going to use the GraphQL query to provide default values to this title, description, image, path name, and is article, and then we can actually we can pass values in or use the defaults. So in our template, for example, we can't pass defaults in. We can't pass values into it because it's generated at build time. So in this way, we're going to be able to get some default values out of our site metadata, which is defined by this query here. So let's say what we're going to have. So what we're able to do is to rename the values that come back. So we're getting all this stuff back. So we're going to get author. Okay. And then we're going to get avatar. Okay, that's not default. Description, we can say that's the default description. That, and then we're getting back the site language. Well, we can keep that the same. It's always going to be in English. That, and this is the great thing about GraphQL, the way you can rename the values that you pull back. Avatar. The next thing is the site URL. Site URL, don't go to change. Then we've got the site name. Site name. The default title is next. And we got title template, and then we've got Twitter username. Not so we're going to use all these things in our metadata, but we've got at least got the option to use them. So that's going to grab back all that default data and then now return. So go back to here. This is where it gets a bit tricky. Think of exactly how this is supposed to work. So we want the helmet here. So let's try and keep this as simple as possible. So let's see if we can push this into let me push that. Developers Garage, welcome to the stream. Codebase Alpha here. Thank you for the raid, Developers Garage. Very kind of you to do that. Yeah, we're currently working on a GatsbyJS site, static website for a portfolio site, and we're just looking at search engine optimization. Your Snable shaders, yes, they're lovely shaders. Let's have some electric hype as well. Some hyperspatial hype for the raiders. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, so we're doing some search engine optimization using Gatsby, and we just imported a bunch of plugins and trying to figure out exactly the way the query's got to work. We're using GraphQL to bring back some default data. So default description, the default title is really what it boils down to here. So what I'm trying to figure out here, if I put title, what have I got available to me here? Got all those things there, look. It looks like I've got these things available to me, but have I? Which is kind of my question. So let's experiment. Let's put the default title in there. Let's save that. Let's go into our layout. In there and see what that does. Let's see if it compiles for a start. Failed to build. See, it's not defined, so I haven't brought it in basically. So what I need to do is import that, import SEO, SEO, save that, compiles now, it's still failing. Author is, it's got some warnings, site is not defined. This is what I kind of had the kind of feeling that site isn't the right thing over here. So this should be this site here. I don't think we actually got access to what I think we got access to here. Okay. So when we did the blogs, we pulled the edges out, so all marked out edges. This is what we had available to us, it was edges. Yeah. All marked down, we mark edges. So over here, got site metadata. It's kind of what I expected it to look like. Here's our data. Just start site. Still a creation, shout out. Oh yes, yes, you did get a shout out, yes. All fellow live coders in the stream, welcome. Yeah, my bot will shout you out if you're a member of the live coders team. Yeah. LAN ID, thank you very much for the follow. Have some electric hype. This is one of our shaders that that FuelSnable created for the stream. We've actually worked on quite a few of these pixel shaders on the stream in collaboration with FuelSnable. So if you're interested in that, check out the YouTube for the kind of shaders. I'll pop my YouTube channel into chat if you are interested in going looking at that. Okay. So I don't think that's available to us directly. It's built this time. That's interesting. So let's have a look about what we've got then. So we go back to our page here. This is what we've been working on. So it's just it's a very kind of grey and white site at the moment. There will be some colour eventually, but it's basically a portfolio site. So we've got our social buttons here. Drones Copper, thank you so much for the subscription. That's very, very kind of you. Have some hyperspatial hype to celebrate. So kind. So these are our GitHub projects. These are all being pulled back by GraphQL from GitHub. We've got a link to the repo here and a link to our YouTube playlist that's associated with the projects. There's a fair few projects. Not all of them have got YouTube playlists because some of them are kind of personal projects. For example, the Zombie Survivor Kata was something we worked on at work. But most things do have a playlist. If you go to this site, this site is up on Netlify. It's codebasealpha.dev. and you can click on these buttons and get the playlist for the project. So your shaders here, the Z80 emulation, which I've just released the NuGet package for, is here. There's a synthesizer that was built in .NET Core 3 and WPF here. There's the bot, which we're using in Stream at the moment, AI chatbot, and this is the website we're working on at the moment. A whole bunch of other stuff, some F# work, loads of stuff as well. So if we have a look at, if we hit F12 and have a look at what we've got, lots of red, haven't we? So we're obviously not working quite as we want. So have we got a title? I think we better put a meta. We got a header. Right, we better put a meta in there, I think. So let's see what happens when we do that. So we'll say, I don't know, what should we say? Meta name equals description. Content equals, and then we're going to have default description, was it? I don't think it's. I'm kind of convinced he's not picking that up. Build did. I don't see a meta tag in there with description in it. Title's empty, you see there, look. I don't think we're actually pulling those values out. We may have to go back to doing a different type of static query using the old way of doing things. So we try the old way, and then I can always come back to the new way with using the React hook. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Okay. So let's just try do the old static query way. So I'll copy this into the best way of doing that. What we'll do is grab this, and then we'll have const query going to equal GraphQL. And then quotes. There's a backtick, so that's our, and we call this site data's fine. That's our query, and then we can get rid of list. And I think we're going to want to go round brackets, to be honest with you, in the old way of doing things. So then we want to going to say, we're going to have a static query. So like that. And then close the static query off. Get rid of this. So static query. Query is equal to query that we're using. Then we're going to say render is going to equal. So render. I've got to struggle to think of this now. So it's going to be So we're going to figure out what we're going to render out. So it's going to be site was the top level. It's pretty much what we did last time. Site metadata colon, and then it was now these things. It was default description and default title, like that. Okay, so static query. There's that. Try and tidy this a little bit. That, and that. Now, can we do what I was trying to do before? We can, I believe. When we want to deconstruct that, values out of that. Const SEO data. So we're going to have a title, which is either going to be the title we passed in, or it's going to be the default title. Like that. Let's just call it SEO. Then we're going to have, what should we have next? Description, which is going to be either description we pass in or the default description. And that's really the reason why we're doing the GraphQL. We're going to have a avatar, and the avatar we're going to use some JavaScript string interpolation. It's going to be site URL it's going to be in the static directory though, isn't it? So we'll just try this for the moment. $avatar. That should be that. And then URL would be URL is going to be again same kind of thing. String interpolation, it's going to be site URL and then whatever path name we send into it. Another path name. Or if we don't pass a path name in, it's just going to be slash. Okay, so that gives us a bit something to start with. Okay. And in there we're going to return helmet. Okay. So I've got a mismatch of my values here, I think. So let's have a look. Static query. A query. Render. Values. That should line up. And then we want to have in here there's the helmet tag, and we want a title. That's going to equal title. And we want a meta. And what meta do we have last time? It was name, wasn't it? Equals description. And content. To be SEO dot description. Okay. Will that compile? Let's compile. Let's see if we get any joy. Title still blank. And the content for description is null as well. So we're not making to pull this to be. We're actually writing our HTML out okay. Just that the values aren't being pulled through. Our render function should be calling that static query and returning this ASX here. isn't working then. We try passing a title in, I suppose. Just pass the constant, pass an image in. After description, path name, we're using that. Is article, it's something I'm thinking about for when we have the blog posts. Cody Beard, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Living Blazer, Cody Beard says, when they're not running into shows up in bugs. Interesting, getting showstoppers there. Right, let's give this some more thought. I wanted to do with title template. Pain, this is a pain. I wonder if we need to use default values. Wondering why we're not actually getting anything here. So Cody Beard says using Signal R client works great with without PWA, even if the Signal R server is down. With PWA enabled, it throws an exception you can't catch and breaks the whole thing. I've only done a bit of PWA work, but I used that was a .NET Core project, and I used a NuGet package, Mads Christiansen's PWA NuGet package to create it, and that worked great. But I wasn't using Blazor. I've not actually tried using Blazor at all yet. It's something I'm kind of waiting until it's kind of a bit more mature, I think. Now, I'm not a front end guy, so this kind of stuff is really kind of challenging for me to work on front end. Which is why I wanted to do it in a way, because it does kind of stretch my skills, and also hopefully kind of, as I solve these issues, gives people kind of an idea that you can actually get over these kind of things, and you can transfer your skills as a back-end developer into front-end. But some of these things I do find quite tricky. Let's just run this again. Over to our the query, the GraphQL query is bringing our site metadata back nicely. So I'm fairly sure that that bit is okay. It's the fact that when we try to grab these values, they're coming back as with no values in them. So here title is okay. Well, let's just try one thing. Let's get rid of the ORs. Save that. Rebuilt. refresh because my hot reload's not working properly. Title's still blank, and the contents, it's got the contents still blank there. Disappointing. Which makes me think that the way I was doing it was okay. It's just that because I was using the React hook originally. So I'll just have a quick look at. I've got a few notes here, but I don't think there's anything particularly pertaining to what we're working on. That's the problem. It says use try static query, so. It's a bit weird. It looks like it's structured correctly. I've not got any problems with brackets being missing. Bring that across. That neatens up a bit. The helmet's working okay. Okay. My query's not. We're bringing GraphQL in. Okay, let's try some prop types and see what happens with that. Let's stop this for a second. I don't think this is going to solve it, but we'll try it. There's a new npm package called prop types, which allows us to define kind of defaults. Let's give that a go. Property types. Bring that in and see what happens. Okay. Right, so what we can do is we can say something like SEO dot prop types, SEO dot types, yeah. And we can say something like title title, that is going to be prop type. We need to bring prop types into our project. Import prop type. We can say prop type dot. That's going to be a string. So we're kind of like setting the data types we're going to expect. Description. But I can't see this is going to be the problem, to be honest. It's a string. What did I call it? We don't need an image. We got rid of that, didn't we? Path name, string. Then is article. Which is prop type boolean. And then we can set some defaults up. SEO dot default props. Okay, and then we can say, well, title is going to default to null. Description is going to default to null. And path name is null. And this article, which we're not using yet, is going to default false. I don't think this is what I was going to do a bit later on. I don't think this is causing us an issue particularly. That's the kind of idea that we can pass in values. What we're going to do, I think, is on where did we do it? Layout, wasn't it? Let's pass some values in. I'll just do that. Don't know if the best thing to do at this stage. It's probably best to try and get it working with the defaults. Read buildings. Not. The prop type is not defined. Types up. Right. Still not going to give us what we want, I don't think. No. The content is still null, title still empty. Let's just prove we can put something in the title. So here, title is going to be best. Yeah, so it's brought back. You can see there, it's brought back the template, which is interesting. The template's worked, so it tells me we're bringing back the right data. So I wonder if it's because we are trying to transform this stuff. So let's go back, just bringing in basic information like that. Let's Get rid of this stuff. Save that. Refresh. Ah, now that's working now. That's very interesting. So we got our title, which is currently test portfolio website, and we've got our description. Okay, so our GraphQL is working all along. It's just messing around with the defaults, which is causing the issue. So let's have a look at what we can do about that. So let's just fix up this first. So that's gratifying that I wasn't a million miles away with the that's title. Okay. So let's do some more meta tags. I'll revisit other parts of it later. And what did we call this? Avatar, wasn't it? So let's have a look at that, because I think that's going to be in the wrong place. Because I don't think I think it's in the static directory, but I'm not. My avatar here in the site metadata isn't pointing at that. So let's have a look at what that does. Make sure it's compiled okay. As refresh. Okay, so that's not the right location. It isn't in that directory. It's in /static. That's avatar code, I believe. Okay. Wonder where it really is then. Interesting. Go to its directory. Oh, it's actually in the root. It was the right place. Look, that's where it actually does live. Base alpha avatar code. So that should work. Okay, so that's okay. That's good. Okay, avatar code. What else can we do? If we can get this one to appear. Right URL. Yep, there it is. Codebasealpha.dev. Okay. This is Twitter handle. Okay, I mean I've got some notes of some meta tags we can possibly use here. Let's try some of these meta tags. Let's have another one. going to be property. That's going to be what should we use? Twitter. Twitter create. So name equals Twitter creator. Content equal Twitter username. Oops. I wouldn't remember all these properties without having made a note of them. So the property is going to be so it's name, not property. Twitter : title. Title. Another one, meta name equal Twitter : description. SEO.description. Twitter image. Okay, that's a bit of on there. So let's give that a whirl and see if that A compiles. It doesn't, so I missed off a closing thingy there. Save that. Builds this time. There we are, we've got all those bits and pieces in there. Okay, so I think what I'd like to do now is push that up to GitHub and get it to build in Netlify and see what happens. So we'll just do a git add. Commit. SEO started. Push that. So when this goes up into my master branch, then it's going to kick off a build on Netlify. So now we're building. We'll see what happens. Interestingly, that previous push I did didn't go up, so maybe that's why we didn't see the reCAPTCHA on our contact form. We'll check that out as well. Chris Jones, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Yes, Progressive Web App, PWA. I'm not 100% convinced by them, must admit. Yeah, I built one, deployed it to my company, and it's okay, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes it just doesn't work. just comes up with an error page. I don't really understand why. Then other times it will work fine. I mean, it's like having it's a website being like an icon on your desktop. And I guess it's got some. I mean, and with these Gatsby sites, we could add WPA to this quite easily. In fact, we might do it, but I don't see the point. It's a static site, you know. It's a website. It's not an application. They're not published. So let's go and have a look at that. We'll go over to here for that. So this is the actual site, codebasealpha.dev. I've got the dark mode on here, which is why it looks like that. On the contact form, still haven't got a reCAPTCHA, so I'll have to look into that. Let's have a look at our metadata. That's there, all Twitter stuff's there. So if I go over to Twitter, I've tweets and Gatsby working on my report. Tweet that and see what happens. Is it going to give me some metadata on that? Doesn't look it wants, does it? What I want it to do is to expand that. So we'll have to look at that. It's a shame. Right, I think I'm going to stop the stream. I think because I think I've got some head scratching to do about why that's not doing things I expect it to do. This looks all right because it's all coming in from the React Helmet. That looks okay to me. I kind of hoped that we'd see that in the tweet. It would expand that and give me the nice Codebase Alpha logo. But let's say I'm new to this lark of front end development, and search engine optimization was going to be a bit of a challenge. So I'm going to have to look into it, I think. That's the time now. We'll go and find somebody else to raid. So, Chris Jones said, I don't think it's just an icon. You could think of, yes, it's. I know it's not. It's got service workers and things like that in the back of it, and it's also offline stuff. But I was kind of being a bit facetious when it says just an icon on your desktop. I know it's got quite clever stuff in the background, especially if you can get things to work offline and cache results and stuff like that. It carries on working when you haven't got internet connectivity. I don't think, Chris, I think I'm just a bit kind of dubious about whether it's maybe I just don't understand its true purpose. Progressive web app. It's still just a website. I mean, when would you use that rather than a website? I guess is my question. I'm not clear. Like, it's hard for me to sell other people on that. The only thing that we use it for at work is that you can stick that on someone's desktop. It's not just a link to a website. It runs on their runs on in their browser with a service worker, and will still carry on working offline. That's the kind of big thing I think that I've got from it. But yeah, Progressive just thrown in to make it sound cool. I don't know, and a lot of it's kind of experimental support. I think when I was working on it for my job, I had to enable all kinds of experimental features in Chrome, and it only worked on Chrome. So I don't know. Maybe it's something that'll come along. Maybe something like WebAssembly will make it kind of a bit of a moot point. I don't know. Isomorphic functions in JS, or even applicative functors, just to throw a kind of a. No, I'm sure applicative functors are the bee's knees, and we need to do something about that. So you managed to salvage your formlets concept. That's really good. And use applicative functors for that, did you, FieldSnable? From what I gather, you couldn't use the monads, but use those. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Right, let's go and find someone to raid. So I'm feeling a bit kind of I'm dry in the throat and stuff like that. I hope it's nothing more serious than just a bit of a cough. So I think we better raid someone. So let's go and have a look and see who's available. Okay, so SourceScoot is live. Let's go and raid SourceScoot, and I'll see you again same time, 19:30 UTC next Monday, and hopefully I'll have worked out what this metadata is all doing. So take care everyone, and I'll see you then. Is that raid going to happen? We don't seem to be raiding, do we? Oh, there we are. That's the button we need to press. Okay, take care everyone, and I'll see you again next time.